It's exactly 9:15. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the program. Next on the show, we'll be talking with Director of Conveyancing and Property Law at Gwina Attorneys. She is Shaheeda Hoosein, and we're going to talk about the Green Paper. Shaheeda, assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program, and delighted to have you on the show.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Julie. Assalamu alaikum to your listeners.
Okay, so this is, I should imagine the Green Paper is an important document that we need to understand what it's all about, how it's going to serve us as Muslims in our Muslim marriages. Let's start right at the beginning, Shaheeda. What is a Green Paper and what does this document entail?
Okay. Basically, when a law is being drafted or before it's enacted, we have what you call a green paper. This is drafted by the government, and what it entails is various suggestions of what the final law should look like. It has different ideas. It will have recommendations from various stakeholders, as the religious communities, the leaders, the gender activists, human rights activists, traditional leaders. What they all do is they put in their ideas in this green paper to state what are the real issues in their communities. And from there, what happens is the government takes this document and it will draft a policy based on this document. And this policy will form the basis on which the final Marriage Act will be drafted.
So, Shaheeda, obviously, I should imagine at green paper level, before it gets to the white paper level, I should imagine, the laws or suggestions are subject to change, subject to objection, etc., because once it comes out in white paper form, there's no going back.
That's correct. It's only a document which is for consultative purposes. Yes, it will definitely change. There will definitely be more consultations. Even after this process, there will have to be a bill enacted. Then after it will go into cabinet for discussions. Thereafter it will go to parliament for discussion and for, where they will vote on it and so forth. So it's still at the first stages of this law.
So we can participate at this point, but let's also understand how has marriage laws evolved over the years and what issues in general do South Africans have with the existing law?
Okay. Over the years, we've had the Black Administration Act of 1927. This law governed Black marriages, right? And the default position in terms of these Black marriages was out of community of property. So what this means is there was no joint estate of the parties. On dissolution of the marriage, there was no like half the estate didn't go to the wife and half go to the husband. It was nothing like that. It was what was the wife's property and what was the husband's property was his. There was no management by both the spouses of the estate as well. So this was, and there was marital power in terms of this particular Black Administration Act of 1927. So this then evolved. And then we had the Marriage Act of 1961. I think that's some like 50 years later. And this act now included the Black marriages, right? And all the marriages in South Africa took place in terms of this particular act of 1961. And this was between a man and a woman. A marriage could occur between a man and a woman. And the default position in this instance was in community of property. So now the Blacks had this protection where you have a marriage in community of property, and now the woman had a say in the management of this property, and also on dissolution of the marriage, they could get half the property. Right?
Okay.
So this was much better. Yes.
All right. My understanding of the little that I know about marriage laws is that doesn't the anti-nuptial contract serve both parties more fairly? And isn't that closest to Muslim marriages? Having said that, what issues are we as Muslims facing, and why does the law have to be changed from an Islamic perspective, or the Muslim Marriages Act, or Muslim marriages as a whole?
Okay. The default position is in community of property. Now, the majority of people in South Africa, this is what their view is, that this is the most beneficial position for women and children in our country, because it allows management by both the spouses in this estate, right? Yes, Islamic marriages in terms of Sharia law is more inclined to out of community of property, as I stated before, where there is no joint estate, right? But the problem with this over time is that firstly, our religious marriages are not even recognized at all. And secondly, if we do have a civil marriage registered for an Islamic marriage, it is out of community of property, because that is what we enter into an anti-nuptial contract. And as stated before, this is in our times and in the secular society that we're living in, it's not beneficial for the woman.
I
So
don't
the
know.
problems that we are having now in our Muslim marriages and in our religious marriages is that, like, sometimes you have polygamy, right? And then the only person who obtains anything from a religious polygamous marriage is the husband, because property is usually in the name of the husband. All the wives don't have anything out of the estate.
Okay, I do know that they're a group of people. I'm not quite sure what they call themselves. They are lawyers as well. They've been in talks with government for a long time about the Muslim Marriages Act. I'm not sure how far down the line they are. And I imagine the overall idea is to possibly merge the Muslim Marriages Act in keeping with obviously South African law, with the secular law. And you're right, you quite rightly point out that this is really, I guess, the impact will be felt if a man passes on and he has multiple wives, a Muslim man. The first wife seems to be the sole custodian of his estate, and the other wives and children are left out of the loop. And I think this is what this group of people are trying to achieve: recognition of second, third, or multiple wives and their children, recognition and compensation for them should the husband pass on. But that is a discussion on its own. What has been done thus far to recognize Muslim marriages? Because I'm thinking a lot of our young people get married, they get married under Muslim law, Sharia law, so to speak. They don't necessarily go out and get married in a civil court as well. So protection for both parties. Let's look at it from that aspect.
Okay. Let me give you another example as it stands now, right? We have the property in the name, like the house in the name of the husband, right? And he can, on his own, he can mortgage that property, he can sell that property, he can use that property as a security for a suretyship that he might conclude. And all this is done without the consent of the wife or the involvement of the wife. Then you have you don't have even a joint bank account, right? So that's another issue.
Oh.
All these issues have effects on not only the wife, it's the children, it is the parents who live who live in this family structure, right? Then we get to what has been done thus far, right, for this recognition of Muslim marriages. Now, over the years, you've had the reform, you have the gender commissions, you've had the women's legal circle, and the recognition, the various different bodies who tried from, I think, 2003 to try and get these Muslim religious marriages registered. They were not successful, right? Either it was because there was not enough support from our community, or either the contents flouted what is recognized in terms of our constitution. So for various reasons, the Muslim marriage bill has not been enacted. So from 2003, we're now in 2021, and it still hasn't been registered. Yes, a lot of people have in our community still believe, yes, that it shouldn't be registered, and we should carry on with what Sharia law states. But the problem is we're not living in a country that is governed by Sharia law. We're living in a secular society, and on the ground, it's not assisting our communities. Now, Sharia law, what is the intention behind Sharia law? The intention behind Sharia law is for equality to prevail, for our Muslim women to have dignity, for our children to be looked after, for our parents to be catered for. And this is not happening with the present marriage laws. That is why we have this green paper, and this is why the government is calling for our communities to tell them what are the problems on the ground that they need to look at and to cater for in the law when it is registered. And also it gives us an opportunity, it gives our ulama the opportunity, our alimas the opportunity to actually engage with them, because they know the Sharia law, and they know how they will be able to inculcate these principles in our Sharia law into secular law. It won't be a perfect law, but it will be a law that I believe that we will be going onto the right track. We will, it's the correct path we are going to, in order not only to secure our own communities at present, these laws have an effect for generations to come. And yes, as I said again, it will not be a perfect law.
So I should imagine, as you say, it may not serve all of the traditional marriages, whether they be Black, Indian, or any other minority group, but it could be a work in progress, I should imagine. This is something that lawyers and religious leaders could have ongoing discussions about, and hope that there is room for changes as you go along, even if it reaches white paper status.
Definitely. And like reaching, at least, yes, definitely. Even if we reach white paper status or the bill status, there's some type of movement, and there's some type of engagement by our community. At the moment, what is happening also, Julie, is that the courts are making these decisions for us. We are getting piecemeal benefits from court decisions and from legislations, but it is not overall, recognition of Muslim marriages. And if we don't engage with the government on this, the courts are going to do it themselves. Because Absolutely. At the moment, what is happening is what is happening on the ground is it's not in line with the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. There is no it might not be equality. There is no dignity. There is no recognition of religious marriages, and all these are allowed for in our Constitution.
Okay, my final question to you then, and I think this is a discussion that could go on for hours, and perhaps we can talk to you at a future date as well, inshallah. What can the community do to assist in changing the current laws which excludes us as Muslims?
Okay, firstly, I strongly recommend that our ulama get involved and the people on the ground get involved. Tell the government via emailing them on marriage green paper at dha.gov.za. Advise them what are the real issues on the ground so that they can get people in the background and they can get the experts and they can get the academics to investigate all these issues and take it forward.
How long does this process take from green paper to the bill being enacted? What sort of time frame are we looking at?
For this particular marriage law, they're looking at enactment of the law, I think, in 2023.
Okay, so there's still time.
It's a very long process. And this is, as I stated before, it has an impact on generations to come. It takes extremely long to even get an act to be passed in Parliament. It takes years just to get that done. So, yeah, that is my appeal to the community. And as I said,
Inshallah.
if you disagree with me, it's fine. You know, state that, give that information to the government. At least then they know what is the Muslim community? What are we thinking about? And what do we want?
Sure. Shaheeda Hoosein, Jazakallah for the input. We will be following this closely, even though there's a possibility it will only be passed in 2023, but it serves us as a Muslim community and our future generations, obviously, in our best interest. Shukran for being with us, and Salaam Alaikum to you.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much for your time.
9:32 exactly. When we come back, we are going to be crossing over to Palestine, so do stay with us.